Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. And I do want to highlight dynamicforces.com real quick. Check out their website. They got great limited edition covers, CGC books, signed books, remarks, amazing content over at dynamicforces.com. And be sure to enter Robbie at your cart and save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week: The Me You Love in the Dark, issue number 5. This is from Image Comics, written by Scotty Young with artwork by Jorge Corona. This is the final issue of what I consider to be one of the top books of the year. This was a magnificent conclusion to this story, right? This thing has been pitch perfect paced, absolute amazing artwork, a very intriguing and dark story. If you haven't been reading The Me You Love in the Dark, this is what it's about. It's about an artist, and she is kind of going through a block, right? And she needs to like fill her next gallery full of paintings. So she goes, finds this like dark, brooding looking house, supposedly haunted. She hopes it's haunted. She hopes that inspires her. Turns out there is some kind of entity in there. They fall in love kinda, or have like a fling over the course of these issues. And it all ends very badly here in issue number 5. Now, the events of the story may end badly, but the book itself ends excellently. This book was absolutely phenomenal. The artwork, the atmosphere, the tone, the mood provided was just top-notch. This is one of the best things I have ever read from Scotty Young. Now, of course, we were shorted at my shop this week, but I did get to read it digitally. I highly encourage you to check this book out. If you missed it, if you can't find the issues, just wait on that graphic novel, but no lie, this is one of the best books of the year. Moving on from Image Comics, also we have King of Spies, issue number 1 this week. This is the new one from Mark Millar, Matteo Scalera. Mark Millar books, some I like, some I really don't. You know, I'm just kind of like in the middle, you know, some things are over there, some things are over there. This one I really liked. I thought this was really solid. I was really excited to check it out because it's illustrated by Matteo Scalera. I'm a huge fan of this cat's work. You'll know him from things like Black Science, for instance. I met him with my friend Robbie. We call him Robbie from Earth 2, and he got like a Conan sketch from him. Was absolutely amazing. He's a cool dude. Anyway, what is the book about? It's basically, what if James Bond is kind of at the end of his life? He finds out he only has 6 months left to live. He starts reflecting. He starts thinking about how he hasn't actually changed the world for the good. There's still a lot of a-holes out there, still a lot of corrupt individuals, still a lot of dirt to clean up that he never really adequately got the chance to clean up. So he decides he's going to spend his last 6 months doing just that. It actually works. It's a nice, solid, neatly compressed and tight first issue. Lots of action, great artwork, and a lot of interesting intrigue in the concept of the story and the building up of the character. This dude is not necessarily James Bond. He's a James Bond type figure, so even the characterization is a bit different, and I really like that. I criticize Millar sometimes for just doing, what about this movie, but with superheroes? But this time he takes, what about this movie, in this kind of a way. But it actually works. King of Spies number 1. I thought that was a pretty solid book. Redneck is back with issue number 31. This is the first issue of the final arc of Redneck. Redneck is a Donny Cates, Lithro, Estherin, D. Cuniff, and who's the letterer? Joe Sabino. We definitely got to point out the letterer as well. This is a vampire story. It's about like Texas vampires, hence the term redneck, right? But what has started as a rather kind of like simple story about redneck vampires has really built up into this crazy vampiric world and all this lore and mythology that Donny Cates has been building up. It's been building up to this big bit, this big finale, this big finish. I was a bit lost here. I'm going to be honest with you. First of all, it's been a while since a Redneck issue has come out. This one jumps like 200 years in the future, and I just felt a bit lost. It was still intriguing. It was interesting, but it's one of those stories that jumps way ahead and then goes, oh, you didn't know what already happened before? And then I'm sure they're going to fill us in on those details as it comes. So Redneck, number 31, a solidly executed issue, but just in my reading experience, I felt a bit lost because it's been so long and it jumped so far ahead. So there you go. Then we got Department of Truth, issue number 14. This is another one of those, what do they call them, deviations? I believe they called them deviations. Pretty sure. Yeah, Deviation number 3. So this is one of those stories that's not part of the main story, but it's going back in time and revealing some very important information. Now, they've already done 2 issues like this before. Those 2 issues had artwork that was so different from the style that Martin Simmons is using for this book that it threw me off, threw a lot of people off. We're talking about like issues 5 and 6, right? This one, though, the artist is John Pearson, I believe. Yeah, John J. Pearson. The art really fits what Simmons is doing. So it fits the mood, it fits the atmosphere of this story. It definitely appropriates the right tone, and it does it very well. So this is one that does reveal a lot of information that we're going to need going forward. It's digging back into the lore of magic, Crowley, L. Ron Hubbard. It's tackling Scientology, the rocket propulsion systems with Pearsons. It's all this stuff, and stuff that I really love to just kind of explore for fun gets brought into Department of Truth, and they do it so well. Super exposition heavy, but it's super intriguing to me. I love the artwork here. There's the use of white in this issue in particular. For the most part, you would think that the use of a lot of black is the most striking thing about like Department of Truth, but in this one, it's the use of white. Very striking, really good stuff. Really like this issue. Thought it was immensely solid. There you go. Also from Image, we have Spawn, issue 324. This is an okay issue of Spawn. I'll be honest with you, the Carlo Barberi's artwork, it kind of felt a little bit lacking in this one. It just had a little bit of a rough edge to it that wasn't something that was done tonally for the story, right? It just didn't, it felt a bit rushed, a bit kind of thrown together. The story was kind of all out there. It's focusing more on the mystery of this new kid who's medieval Spawn. What's going on with that? It doesn't give us any answers. It just acknowledges that there's a mystery. So nothing much really going on in this issue of Spawn for me, but $2.99 cardstock cover. Marvel, DC, crickets. Crickets. They give us crickets, overpriced crickets. Anyway, Firepower is here with issue number 18. This is the end of the 3rd arc, and wow, what an ending. This book is not returning until April. That kind of sucks, but man, this book has been fantastic. Super kinetically charged. The action leaps off the page. Amazing, brilliant coloring from Matt Wilson. Russ Wooten on the lettering. Everything about this is top-notch. Chris Samney just pumping out some of the best action sequences of his career and handling that emotion that's associated with it. The book really delicately balances enough like drama and intrigue and explosive action. It does it expertly well, and it's amazing me that this is from Robert Kirkman, because typically Robert Kirkman just does a lot of talking heads, hence The Walking Dead, aka The Talking Heads, but not like the band. But Firepower is the opposite of that. This is the most streamlined, concise, and exhilarating Robert Kirkman book I can think of I've ever read. Firepower issue number 18, definitely worth it. Let's jump over to DC. We have Wonder Woman Historia. It's Wonder Woman and it's Historia, the Amazons. So this is a DC Black Label book, Prestige Plus, written by Kelly Sue DeConnick with artwork by Phil Jimenez. And what it is it's its own interpretation of the history of the Amazons, Greek mythology, all that kind of stuff, right? This book was supposed to come out like a long time ago. It's been delayed and delayed and delayed. The next issue's not out till spring. But holy cow, was this book awesome. First of all, the artwork in this book is freaking phenomenal. This is some of the best work I've seen from Phil Jimenez. Now, I mean, I'm honest. This is psychedelic. It's trippy. It's wild. The coloring. Who does it? I know Hi-Fi is involved. Hi-Fi, Arif Prenando, Romulo Fajardo. Bruh, let me tell you something, everybody. This book, the artwork is majestic. It is beautiful and luscious. The story's pretty good too. It's decent. It may not be for everybody because obviously we're alluding to the origins of the Amazons, how that's connected to Greek mythology. So they speak a lot on the oppression of women, say, by like men throughout history. But man, the artwork, the way it's delivered, wow, I have not seen an artist utilize this Prestige Plus format quite like Phil Jimenez. Phil Jimenez has done some amazing work, and it's your typical composition and layouts, but yo, the way that coloring goes over it and just, it pops, it snaps, it crackles, and it pops. This book was really good. I wasn't expecting much. It was like, oh man, DC's got a lot of oversized stuff this week. But y'all, the artwork sold me on this one, and I thought the story's pretty cool too. The different interpretations of some of the Greek gods and goddesses was really, really cool. Then we have Justice League Incarnate, issue number 1. This is from Joshua Williamson and Dennis Culver with artwork by a few people, actually. We got Brandon Peterson, we got Andre Breeson, and we got Tom Derenick. So the artwork is a bit inconsistent. It jumps like back and forth, and that kind of bothered me. Like, why can't just get one consistent artist on this book? It's not like they even... A lot of times in these multiversal books, and that's what this is the follow-up to Infinite Frontier. So if you like that book, this is the next chapter of that story. Basically, Barry Allen has been tricked by Darkseid and Infinite Frontier to crack a hole into the multiverse and open up some force and power outside of the multiverse. Darkseid's calling it the Great Darkness. Legion fans, the Great Darkness? What? Anyway, this was really cool though. So what I was saying was, usually in these multiversal stories, they have a different artist in to represent a different world. They don't even really do that here. It just kind of jumps back and forth, and it's a bit inconsistent and jarring artistically. But story-wise, this is what I love. I eat this up. Big, cosmic, multiversal, crazy, bombastic superhero action, and I'm loving it. Like I said, continuing the story of Infinite Frontier, and it gives us a fan favorite moment of mine. It basically gives us, because in the DC multiverse, there is a world that is pretty much the Marvel universe, and a lot of the action takes place in that universe, and I'm not really spoiling much, but let me just say that we get a Darkseid versus Thanos in this book, and that was pretty freaking awesome. Action Comics 1037 is here. Loving what Philip Kennedy Johnson is doing with the Superman book right now, Action Comics. It's been building up to this fight for War World. Superman and the Authority, they're on their way to War World to find Mongol and to stop his evil, tyrannical, gladiator-type world that he lords over. And dude, the last issue, all this build-up, Superman shows up, and all the people that he's there to save have been killed by Mongol, and their corpses are leading a trail for Superman and the Authority to go to Mongol's throne. Holy cow. In this one, big giant battle, big things happen, big great action scenes. Mendonça on the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. Philip Kennedy Johnson giving us something big and epic, and there is a shocking moment in here, but we don't believe it for a second. Batman the Detective, issue number 6. This is the final issue of the Tom Taylor, Andy Kubert miniseries. It's an Elseworlds tale. It's a little bit of an older Batman. He's kind of given up. He's like, you know what? I'm never really going to clean up Gotham. Let me just travel the world and do things. He winds up in the UK. He comes across Ducard. He comes across Knight, the new Squire. And there's this organization led by this woman named Equilibrium who's out there to try to kill everybody that Batman's ever saved, right? And they dress like Batman, but they're all dressed in white or something like that. Really great conclusion. Lots of action. Great artwork by Andy Kubert. This dude is a veteran, and he proves it here. Story's pretty solid. It's a really decent ending. At times, though, it does have a couple false endings, where they kind of trick you out on some stuff. That was a little bit cheap, but aside from that, Batman the Detective, pretty solid book. It's not going to become something like perennial or evergreen that we're going to be talking about on the shelves, but it was decent enough. Wonder Girl, issue number 5. I think I've promised, I think I've teased this a few times, but I'm officially done with this book. I'm just not into it. No Joelle Jones on here. We got the fill-in artist, typical fill-in artist, Mello, which, does a good job with the artwork, but man, it's just, story-wise, it's just not really grabbing me. It feels like it's all over the place, bouncing here and there, and I just can't be on board. I really like the character Yara Flor. I thought the Future State 2-issue series was amazing. I was really excited to see this character develop and flourish, but alas, all the Wonder Woman books are leaving me rather flat right now. We got Batman Fear State Omega talking about flat. This was so this is the coda to Batman Fear State, an event that I thought had a lot of great build-up, and then no actual meat to the story. And this one just kind of takes some things that were done at the end of Fear State and unravels them, leaves certain things dangling loose, and ties some other things up. Didn't really like this one at all. So it's setting up this new idea of, it's mostly setting up what's to come. Tynan's on his way out, and he's got to leave everything nice and tight for the new creative teams. Basically, Batman's going to be leaving Gotham, and the Bat family's going to be there. I don't know. This one didn't really do much for me. You got some cool artwork here. You got Christian Duce, you got Riccardo Ferici, but it really didn't do much for me. But if you like your stories, if you like your lackluster events to like wrap up with a little bit more resolution, definitely check this out. But if you're already done with Fear State, I mean, I think you can pass that up. I mean, to be honest with you. I mean, straight up. All right, then we got Gotham City Villains, the Anniversary Giant. Anniversary of what? What's the anniversary? What is it? First Joker anniversary was last year. What villain is this the anniversary? Is it all of these villains showed up in the same year? I have no they didn't. No, they didn't. Why is it an Anniversary Giant? I don't know. But this is one of those big $10 DC things. It's a 5th week for DC because these books release on Tuesday, so that was November 30th. December 1st is Wednesday, so it's that weird kind of 5th week that DC has, the other ones don't. Let me tell you something. Is this worth it? I hate to say it, but no. No, it's really not. It's got an opening story by Danny DeVito and Dan Mora. Started interesting. Got really bad towards the end where I'm like, that's what this story is? That's so stupid. And then it just kind of does that. Like, some of the stories are okay. There's a Dan Waters story in here about Mad Hatter. But it doesn't really have any kind of like good like hook or point to it. It just kind of sets up some stuff that will probably be fully developed more in Arkham City, because that's what it says. I mean, you got some great talent. All of the artwork pretty much on this book is awesome, by the way. I mean, we got Dan Mora, Wes Craig, Emma Rios, Riccardo Federici, Max Rayner, Max Fiumara, Skylar Partridge, and I mean, Ariella, Christiana. Like, all of the artwork is awesome, but all the stories are just okay, and it's kind of what we come to expect from these Anniversary Giants. Anniversary of what? Anniversary of what? Like, the first moment we called it the Rogues Gallery? Like, I don't understand. Don't understand. All right, DC's got a lot of annuals out this week. There's a Batman annual. That wraps up the Ghostmaker storyline, backup story in Batman. So if you haven't been reading that, just skip that, because that's all that is. Detective Comics, Mariko Tamaki, Matt Rosenberg, and David Lapham. I really like Lapham here on the artwork. I don't know. Is it Lapham or is it Lapham? Somebody help me out in the comments. I hear both ways all the damn time. This sets up the new Batman event. That's right. We just wrapped up a Batman event with Fear State, which is also setting up the new event, which is Shadow of the Bat. One event leading into another. Ooh, DC, you're getting on my nerves. You're making me feel like I don't need to read any of the Bat books right now. Seriously. Like, what's going on? One event into another? Man, that is janky. In this issue, they set that up. You can chase Meridians in the book now. Like, Nicole Kidman from Batman Forever. Sure, it sets up the premise of Arkham Tower. What's that all about? This is mostly Nightwing telling Batman that he's been doing it wrong the whole time and he's got a better plan. I don't know, it didn't really work for me. Then we got the Nightwing Annual. This was an alright story. It's written by Tom Taylor. So these annuals, they're throwaway. You can skip them. They're not necessary. But what thing I do appreciate is that they are done by the creative writers, at least, on the main series. Tom Taylor's the writer on this. It's a team up between Red Hood and Nightwing. It's a pretty decent story. It focuses on their relationship, like back when Jason was Robin, that relationship, and today. So that was kind of cool. But ultimately, a story that doesn't really mean much or anything. Then we got a Robin 2021 annual. This one meant a little bit more because I'm really liking that Robin book by Joshua Williamson. And this one fits in before issue 6, but what it does is it gives you a little bit of a tease, and for some, a fully developed backstory. Flatline gets a fully developed backstory. We get a little bit of tease of the backstory of Respawn, a little tease of how Connor Hawke survives the Flashpoint, DC Rebirth snaps, and Dr. Manhattans, and all the crazy multiversal type stuff. So this one was all right. If you were really liking Robin and you want a little bit more backstory on some of those characters that have been Damian's fellow fighters in the tournament of the Lazarus Island, this is definitely worth checking out for that. Then we got a Joker annual. Artwork by Francisco Francavilla. I was really looking forward to that. It felt a bit phoned in. Felt like it kind of just did it real quick. Didn't have the refinement of what I really like about Francisco Francavilla. So kind of, it didn't really fulfill what I was wanting out of it that way. The colors were cool in this book. It's just a story set in the past that involves Joker and Gordon. And it really goes nowhere. And it's not necessary. So I hate to say not to read a Francisco Francavilla book, but I wouldn't recommend that one. Then we got the Justice League Dark Annual. This is supposed to be the big finale of the Rom v Justice League Dark stuff, and I've been liking that. It's the backup story in Justice League. It's the best part of the Justice League. So I was really expecting some kind of a big finale here, a culmination of ideas, and we do get a culmination of ideas. Rom is joined by Dan Waters here, so seeing two, that's 50% of the White Noise crew working here on the same book. That was cool. Dan Waters, Rom V. Big finale for Justice League Dark. Lots of threads have been building up to this moment. And all he does is really just kind of bring it up and set it up. And maybe he still has a 10-page backup that's going to further, like conclude this. But I looked at the solicitations a little bit, and it looks like in the next few issues of Justice League, Brian Michael Bendis is doing like a Justice League Dark crossover to tie it all together. So, man, not looking forward to that. Aside from that, it was a bunch of exposition, but a lot of cool concepts and ideas executed fairly well. Then we got Human Target issue number 2. This is from Tom King, Greg Smallwood, DC Black Label. I liked the first issue, and I liked the second issue decently enough. It starts getting really cliche, though. Like, I get it, man. This is like a 50s detective spy type story. He's hard drinking. He's near death. He's only got 12 days left to live. Each issue of the series is going to be a day. This is day 2. It involves Ice from the Justice League International days. That was cool, but once again, mischaracterization is prevalent in this book on established superhero characters. That's fine. It's out of continuity, whatever, but it just didn't quite work for me. It just felt filled with cliche and not a lot of substance. But the artwork by Greg Smallwood was absolutely fire. Let's jump over to Marvel, see if they can catch a fire of their own. From Marvel, we have a couple of Death of Doctor Strange one-shots, including the Spider-Man one. This is by Jed MacKay. Is it Marco Ferreira? Yeah, Marcelo Ferreira. This was all right. Now, you know, there's a new issue of Amazing Spider-Man. I'm not reading it. I'm done. They're going to keep abusing the audience, doing point BS issues and things like that. Screw it. I'm done. But they found a way to trick me into reading Spider-Man book. Okay, so all of these Death of Doctor Strange one-shots. So Doctor Strange dies. He's had this mystical barrier protecting Earth all this time. And now all these magical threats, dimensional threats are coming through, and everybody has to deal with them. So he kind of has this deal with Spider-Man where it's like part of his last will and testament where he like gets Spider-Man over there and he tells him, hey, I need you to do this checklist for me. Check this, check this, check this, check this. And it kind of accentuates the point of all that Doctor Strange does. It gets a bit on the nose with that. I think Jed MacKay is a really solid writer, but this one's just a bit too on the nose sometimes with what it's trying to do thematically. But it's Black Cat and Spider-Man. Spider-Man, of course, is Ben Reilly. They're doing their thing. They're dealing with their problems with each other, but it was an okay kind of thing, but it wasn't necessary at all. Then we got the Death of Doctor Strange, White Fox. It's I guess, the same type thing. The White Fox and her compatriots are dealing with the fallout from the death of Doctor Strange, all these magical beings there. Focuses more in on the White Fox, her origins, all that kind of stuff. Intriguing enough, but actually not really intriguing enough. This one was kind of boring to me. And I haven't really been in on this like White Fox character or anything like that. It feels like one of those characters that Marvel wants to spotlight, but then they don't. So it just kind of falls flat. And you're just like, what? When's the next time we're going to see White Fox? The next event? So I don't know. I thought it was all right. Darkhold, Black Bolt. This one written by Mark Russell. These Darkhold stories have been really cool. Like the whole premise of the Darkhold book, the Omega and the Alpha, whatever, don't really feel into that, but what we've gotten so far is like horror movie versions of these characters. Wasp like in a slasher film, Iron Man in like a Cronenberg body horror film. This is Black Bolt. This is the weakest of all of them so far. It's kind of got like a twist that's supposed to be like bum bum bum, but it doesn't really work and it just seems kind of lame. It just doesn't live up to what has come before with the other one-shots. So that one was kind of whack for me. Then we got Avengers issue number 50, aka issue 750. This is a big deal. All these things, all these dangling threads, all these story points building up for Jason Aaron here. And actually they kind of build up into a point, like the importance of the 1 billion BC Avengers and the totems and all that kind of stuff. It gets developed and there's some interesting ideas. We've already been alluded to the idea of Doctor Doom and his like multiversal Masters of Evil. Everybody's doing the multiverse now. You know, it's the next big trend. But this one's all right. I mean, if you're not already reading Avengers, I would not recommend reading this $10 issue, honestly, because I think you'll feel lost. I think that it will feel overstuffed, and I don't think you'll pick up on a lot of the stuff that's going on. Having sogged and plotted through all 50 of these issues, some have been good, and some haven't really been very good, but this one was an all right, decent enough issue, setting up some stuff to come. But the biggest thing is what happens to She-Hulk here. That's going to make a lot of people happy. So if you're not going to, it's $10. So just go to your comic shop, flip through it, and be like, oh yeah, She-Hulk, hey. That's what I'd recommend. Then we got Venom issue number 2. This one's solely written by Rom B, because Rom's going to be handling the Dylan's part of the story. And this one is all Dylan-centric. So Eddie is now like this cosmic symbiote god. Dylan is on Earth on his own. He's bonded with the Venom symbiote. So now Dylan is Venom, and this is his next story. So there's some cool language used here. It's a very expertly paced and rendered issue. Brian Hitch here on the artwork does a solid job, like super solid, like absolutely super solid. This is old hat to him. He knows how to do this with all the detail and things like that. And the story is pretty good. I liked it. Like I said, though, there's not a lot of meat, but it was a really solid, fun continuation from the Donny Cates story, doing its own thing, going in its own direction. It's not going to be as beautiful or as poetic as you may expect from Rom V, but it's exactly what it needs to be for a Venom book, and not overly dumb like those Venom movies. Then we got Daredevil issue number 36. This is the final issue of Daredevil for now, because we're about to launch into the whole Devil's Reign type thing. So Kingpin's mayor, he's marrying Typhoid Mary. This is the marriage issue here, plus Daredevil gets released from prison. So this is a big like epilogue where all these things that have been building up just kind of resolve and I guess set up for Devil's Reign. I was expecting more of a guttural punch to happen, something that cleanly launched this into Devil's Reign, cleanly showed a reason why Devil's Reign exists. Now, we don't get any of that. We just kind of get a soft resolution to all this stuff. And it was all right. I'll be honest. It was just okay. Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil has been super solid, but the final act of the whole run, if you look at all 36 issues, has been kind of weak in my opinion. We'll see what happens with Devil's Reign. You never know. Some Elektra stuff in here, though, is awesome. Because Elektra's the best. Then we got Fantastic Four issue number 38. Dan Slott's been coming into his own as the Fantastic Four writer, making the books feel classic and modern and exciting, and that's kind of cool. In this one, the Wizard shows up, and he's like, yo, Bentley 23, I'm here to take him back. Now, we've seen that before, but now he's using legal action. So Q, She-Hulk. What? She-Hulk's back in her lawyer garb? Need I remind you, some really cool stuff. Like a return to glory for She-Hulk and Avengers. But that's what happens here. It wasn't super exciting. It was kind of a little bit of a lull issue, and it continues into the next part. So I feel like this could have been all wrapped up in one issue, but we'll see where it goes. It's decent enough. It's solid. And for a Fantastic Four book, it's good. But it's not quite what the last several issues have been for me. Then we got Darkhawk issue number 4, the penultimate issue of this miniseries, introducing the new Darkhawk. This is the weakest issue so far. It's basically a conversation between the new Darkhawk and Miles Morales. Captain America shows up just for fun, so it's interesting enough, but it doesn't really move the story forward a lot, but there is some great character beats there, but it doesn't feel organic. It feels kind of forced, like, okay, we're going to take this one issue right before the finale to have Miles and Cap give Darkhawk an introduction into the superhero world and a pep talk. That being said, it's still an interesting enough series. Let's jump over to Aftershock, where we have Maniac of New York. The Bronx is burning. This is the start of the second volume of Maniac of New York, which is basically, what if Jason stayed in Manhattan? That's what it is. Jason takes Manhattan, part 8, right? Friday 13th, part 8. What if he stayed there? What if he stayed there for decades and he's been killing people since, and he's become this, like, figure that they have, like, warnings. They have drills about it in school, right? Like, instead of earthquake or tornado drills, they have, like, Harry the Maniac killer drills where they all hide under their desk. Like, that's going to do anything. So in this one, the Maniac winds up in the Bronx. So it's picking up on the two figures, the two characters from the first one who are hunting him down. So it does get a bit boring for most of this, but when the killing starts, it's freaking awesome. Andrea Muti on the artwork, the coloring and everything, freaking fantastic. That's one of my favorite things. I love the artwork in this book. Story's decent. Story's good. It's solid. But when it's just people talking, I'm like, let's just get to the killing, because that's the parts that I really like. But yes, that is back. Then we have Hotel, Volume 2, Issue number 1. This is from John Lees, Dalibor Talajic. Y'all, this book is awesome. I've already talked about this before. I got to read it like a month or two ago when we had John Lees and Alex Cormack on the channel. They got a new book coming up called Crimson Cage. You're going to love that. It's Macbeth by way of territorial wrestling. Like, you're going to love it. The book is awesome. And Hotel, Volume 2, Issue number 1 was amazing. It's an anthology series. It's about the small hotel on the side of the road. And in the first volume, each issue was a story about somebody else in a different room in that hotel. We continue picking that up here. And yo, John and Dalibor and Lee do not hold anything back. This is as out there and gut-wrenching as anything that we got in the previous Hotel book, and it just lays it all out there. If you like horror, if you like anthologies, if you liked Hotel before, definitely going to love this book. And even if you haven't read the first volume, you can jump in right here. It's super solid. It's a nice one-and-done story, but there is an overall kind of mystery, like air of mystery about this hotel out there in the middle of nowhere. Once and Future is here with issue number 22. Another fantastic issue, great ideas, amazing, brilliant artwork from Dan Mora and Tamara Bonvillain. The artwork absolutely pops. We get more characters from Arthurian lore brought into this like monster Indiana Jones type thing. It's got the adventure thrills and exhilaration of an Indiana Jones, but it's got some really great like horror bits to it. It feels like this would be a hell of an awesome 80s movie. You know what I'm saying? And I mean that in the most positive light possible. Once and Future number 22 continues the trend of just giving us top-notch horror adventure, and I love it. Then we got Dark Blood issue number 5, the penultimate issue, only one left. I'll stick it through to see how it all comes together. This has been a book that I really liked and wanted to get behind, but as I mentioned in issue number 4, the story is all over the place. It goes from one point in time to another point in time, back to a different point in time, back to that first point in time, back to another point in time, and then now. That throws you off. It's not very clear and concise about what's actually going on, and I'm down for a mystery and having things revealed, but the way that this story just jumps from point to point to point, it's just very jarring. It just knocks me out, and it makes it kind of more of an arduous experience than this book with this concept actually should. Dark Blood number 5, it was okay. From Dynamite, we got Evil Ernie number 1, and yes, the Ken Hazer TMNT number 1 homage covers are not done. Look at that beauty right there. If you like Ken Hazer's work, by the way, when I'm joined by Rex and John from Dynamite Entertainment over at The Experience on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Central Time, we have a lot of Ken Hazer remarks and stuff. This dude is an amazing artist. He can take on any style, do his own thing. This stuff is awesome. So this is a new Evil Ernie. I've never read an Evil Ernie book. I was excited to jump in. Written by Scott Lobdell, art by Ariel Medel. I liked it. I thought it was cool. So Evil Ernie is like part of that smiley face chaos button, and he like possess people or something like that, because that's what's going on here. It's got this just kind of like nerdy kid trying to be class president and all that kind of stuff. He winds up getting this button. He turns in this dude and just kills a bunch of bikers. Like, not much happens in this first issue, but I really liked the way that it was done. It had a bit of humor to it. Had some excessive violence. I was on board. Definitely got to go and check out some of that old school 90s Chaos Evil Ernie stuff, because if this is what Dynamite's doing, I really want to check out more of what's come before. Then we got Jennifer Blood, issue number 3. Look, another Ken Hazer. TMNT number 1 homage. Loved it. The story's pretty cool too. Sometimes the writing gets a bit overly verbose, and it kind of bogs down the pace of the issue, so it doesn't necessarily have the best flow, but I like the concept. Jennifer Blood is basically like a Punisher, Frank Castle type figure, but she was also a housewife, a house mom, but that life is over. And imagine if Frank Castle was in a neighborhood that was completely filled with people, mafia people, criminals in the witness protection program. Imagine the field day he would have there, and that's Jennifer Blood. By the way, in this one, they're also having a game where they like to get illegal immigrants that are trying to cross into the border, and they release them into the part of this neighborhood, and they just hunt them down, and then Jennifer Blood's there hunting the criminals down. So it was pretty cool. I just wish that the writing would allow the book to have more of a free flow type feel, because it just kind of gets bogged down, I think, by some overly verbose exposition and just dialogue. Really not even exposition, just dialogue, right? Then we got the Red Sonja Holiday Special. This is co-written by Mirka Andolfo with Luca Blingino. This one was all right, I guess. I just really didn't get into it. The Vampirilla Holiday Special, I really did. It was kind of a new take, or a different take on A Christmas Carol, but with Vampy. This one, though, with Red Sonja, it didn't really work. I couldn't pick up on much of a Christmas or a holiday theme. It just took place in the winter, so I guess there was that. But it's like Red Sonja, and what happens? She's like tricked into killing this one dude. And I don't know. It's Red Sonja. She's cutting off people's heads and stuff, and that's cool, I guess. But this one just didn't really hit me that much, man. And then we got The Last Session, issue number 1 from Mad Cave Studios. This is about a group of college friends who throughout their college experience have been meeting once a week to play basically D&D. And this is their final session. This is their final campaign. And so it takes a long time to build up these characters, and they're decent enough. Then they get to their campaign, and when they do that, it kind of goes into their mode. I think the guild did that, like where they're the orcs and the bards and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not really a D&D guy. So it didn't really do much for me, to be honest. So if you're a super D&D nerd, you might want to check out The Last Session, number 1 from Mad Cave Studios, if you've checked it out. And I think that there's like a character sheet variant cover, so you can like play those characters or something. The Last Book You'll Ever Read, issue number 4. Cullen Bunn, Leitz on the artwork. Yeah, Leela Leitz, Vladimir Popov on the coloring, Jim Campbell on the artwork. It's a vault book. It's kind of like In the Mouth of Madness, but so this about this woman who wrote a book called like Seder or something like that. And most people that read this book, they start getting this like wave where like all the wildness inside starts coming up. So people just start like screwing and killing, and I mean that's what's happening. And she's on a book tour, and she's very adamant that she's going to stay on this book tour. She's got this bodyguard. They start this affair. This book's kind of all over the place, and right now I'm like, what is the point? Like, what are we getting to? And they start revealing, like, so there's going to be a big reveal towards the end of this series, but I'm starting to get a little bit impatient with it, and the artwork's starting to feel just a bit rushed, just a tad bit sloppy. So Last Book You'll Ever Read, issue number 4, I thought it was not as solid as what I thought the issues before were. Then we have Hellboy. His name was The Bones of Giants, issue number 2. This is an adaptation of the novel by Christopher Golden and Mike Mignola. I never read that novel, so I'm excited to check out this book. But what I really like is the artwork by Matt Smith, coloring by Chris O'Halloran. It's got the pace and the composition of a proper Hellboy book. We got that Silver Lantern Club book out right now, and that seems to be more of a low-key kind of like attempt to get you to know more about some of the more outside figures of Hellboy that weren't even very essential to the Hellboy main story. But this one feels like it fits way more into that, so I'm digging it. I'm enjoying this story. Basically, it's involving a lot of Norse gods type stuff and like dead frost giants, but like Hellboy gets Mjolnir and he can't let go of it, and he kind of gets possessed by the spirit of Thor or something at times. So it was cool, but what I really like is the artwork, the coloring, makes me feel pace-wise, composition-wise, color-wise, atmosphere-wise, a little bit more like a proper Hellboy story. So that's what I read. That's what I thought about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and join us over at patreon.com/PCP. If you want to support this channel, we got a lot of cool PCP Patriot and patrons over there, so we really do appreciate it, y'all. We love you. We couldn't do it without you. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Station. Keep on reading.